You know, before I get in the meat of this classic part two, there's a few things that I need to say up front that will, of course, serve as the intro to this masterpiece. Now, for those of you who have been sending me emails requesting my Rabbit Hole Venus Williams 2 videos that I've produced, I'm going to send those videos out after our 6-time Super Bowl champs play on Sunday. I'm going to ship those videos out after the game. And you know what it is by now. If you want them, send me email. I'll send you the links. But in this video here, I'm going to make plain or reference a position dealing with the Chicago torture that you won't hear. You're not going to hear it. The only place you're going to hear it is here. And I'm going to explain to y'all what you're viewing and what you're going to see in this video in terms of the images that I'm going to show you. And let me say this about the images. They consist of Negroes showing love and affection, which I've told y'all in many of these classic videos that they have for white people. But it's really interesting that the love and affection that they're displaying is towards white cops. And that's really strange when you think about, fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad because I'm brown, I'm not the other color, so police think they have the authority to kill a minority, but fuck that shit. I'm not the one for a punk motherfucker with a badge and a gun to be beaten on. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all remember that bullshit. But it's kind of interesting that you have this amongst the Negro, taking into consideration the anger that they say they have for white cops. And again, I've told y'all they don't, that you can't believe that shit. They love these people. And again, when you look at the images that I'm showing you in this video, you can see for yourself. I mean, I ain't got to say nothing. The images speak for themselves. And the reason why I decided to use these images in this part 2 of this video is because there's a scenario that I want to address in the Chicago torture, because I told y'all there's a lot in this shit. There's a lot in it. And what you have is, and I can remember this, and if you follow my channel, many of you can recall that you have people who would make videos and they would try to bicker and argue with me or other YouTubers who called out the violence in Chicago. I mean, anytime a black person talked about the bloodshed, you had Negroes who would sit on video and say, well, black on black crime is a deflection. Because it's no different than white on white crime, no different than Hispanic on Hispanic crime, no different than Asian on Asian crime. Blacks killing blacks is no big deal. This is what cultures do amongst themselves. And to reference that in regards to blacks being killed by whites, they said that's a deflection. This is what they said. So they didn't want to call it out. So all the violence that took place in Chicago amongst Negroes, you don't hear no videos being produced every time a black is killed by another black. Well, actually, I mean, if you actually did it, make a video every time that shit happened, you wouldn't be making videos on anything else. But yet and still, the Negroes don't want to make videos on this. And they criticize those of us who do. But you'll find these same Afro-American Negroes making videos about the Chicago torture. Now, listen, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. Yes, it should be called out. Yes, it should be called what it was. Torture, savagery by a bunch of savages. Which is what I've been telling y'all these individuals are. They're savages. So I have no problem with blacks calling that out. What I have a problem with is that the ones who are doing it don't call out the savagery amongst their own. And what that represents is a love that they have for white people, which again, I've been trying to tell y'all they have. And this is a classic example. You have Negroes who have absolutely nothing to say when Pookie is shooting Ray Ray. They have nothing to say when Hambone is killing Skillet. They have nothing to say as long as it's black on black. But now as soon as you find some monkeys, some savages who inflict torture on a white guy, now listen now, don't get it wrong. They should call it out, but they should also call out the savagery of their own. And since they don't do that, then we have to call them calling out the savagery of the white boy being brutalized by these four savages. We got to call that what it is. They're upset because it was a white guy, because they love white people. This is what I've been trying to tell y'all. I've been trying to show y'all this. That's the only way you can explain this. There is no other way you can look at this objectively and say, you know what? I don't see what you're saying. You have to see it. I understand it's painful to view, but view it you must. These Negroes cannot call out the brutality when blacks are killing blacks. It's as if it don't exist. If you call that shit out, you're going to find these Negroes having a problem with that. They're not going to want to reference it. They're going to try to talk you down and tell you that, well, blacks killing blacks ain't no big deal. It happens amongst other cultures. And when you reference black on black crime, as many of us do, they're saying it's a deflection. But now these same shines are all over this Chicago torture of this white boy. Now again, I have to keep hitting this point because I know somebody gonna miss this. I already know it. They should call it out. But they got to call out the other stuff too. And only call this out without calling that out, then we have to call this what it is. That's love of whiteness. Which again, I've told y'all in many of these classic videos, that's what this Negro has when it comes down to white people. They love them. And I had to come back one more again and sit this in y'all's lap and let y'all see it for yourself. If you don't have a problem with Pookie and Ray Ray, if you don't have a problem with Hambone and Skillet, if you don't have a problem with the violence and bloodshed amongst black people, that doesn't bother you, that don't move you. And when people make videos calling that bullshit what it is, you're making videos talking about that's deflecting, you're deflecting. But now as soon as the variable switches and it's a white guy who's the victim, all of a sudden these very same shines are making video after video after video talking about this situation, but they cannot muster up enough courage to talk about it when it's black on black. Why? Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because in this case, with this Chicago torture, those savages were torturing and brutalizing, forcing to drink out of a toilet, a white guy. If they were doing that to a Negro, these Negroes wouldn't say one word. It wouldn't bother them. It wouldn't matter to them. And the reason why it wouldn't matter to them is because they're not interested when it's black on black. The only time that they're going to get up in arms and get offended is when it's black on white. Because then they're going to come to the defense of the white person, because I told y'all that's who they love. And how can I say that they love them as if I haven't proven this to y'all in many of these videos? You don't find them digging up dirt on white people. You don't find them trying to drop white people's address. You don't find them trying to find out where white people work. You don't find them doing none of that crap to white folks. The only people who have to suffer that at the hands of the Afro-American Negro is other black people. They will do that shit all day, every day to a black person, and they won't even think twice. It won't even cross their mind to do that bullshit to a white person. Why is that? They love them. And I've told y'all in many of these videos, these Negroes will harm me before they harm them. That's the reason why I don't listen to that bullshit they talk about. Now, again, somebody's going to miss this because, again, I know a lot of y'all just can't connect dots. I don't have no problem with them calling out the savagery. It should be called out. But the only ones who can call that shit out are those of us who call out the savagery amongst the Negro. We're the ones who can sit back and call this what it is. Because we call it what it is when the Negro is killing a Negro. But for those who refuse to address the black on black aspect of this, but then as soon as they do this shit to a white person, here they come, watch them. Set your watch to it, here come the video. They'll call that shit out then because, again, they love white people. They love them. And this is what you have to understand when dealing with this Negro. And I tell white people this all the time who are confused when they look at this Negro and they actually believe they hate us. No. They hate me. They hate me. They love you. They don't hate you. You can't listen to what they say. You have to watch what they do. This is what you have to do. You can't pay no attention to what comes out their mouth. If you pay attention to what comes out their mouth and how much they always blaming white folk, how much they always talking about the ongoing legacy of slavery, how much they always talking about institutionalized racism, how much they always talking about the evil white man, if you listen to that, then none of these Negroes, and you can fill in the blanks with their names, none of them would be married to white women. If what they were saying is true. But when you take a panoramic view of your John Legends, Van Joneses, I mean, we can name these Negroes all day, every day. When you take a panoramic view of these Negroes and place who their spouses are against their rhetoric, there is a disconnect. And the only way that you can understand that disconnect is to understand that they don't hate you. Mr. White Man, Mr. White Woman, they don't hate you. They hate me. They don't hate you. They love you. And the reason why we know they love you is look at their behavior. How they respond when one of y'all are being tortured by a Negro. Here they come. They calling that shit out. But as long as it's black on black, oh, if you address it, that's a deflection. They sit here and talk all that talk, but then look at who they're creating children with. I've been trying to tell y'all this, and I'm gonna tell y'all something else. And this actually, a video that I was planning on doing over y'all's holiday. I haven't gotten around to it, but it's fitting to this. It's gonna tie in with this video here. I'm gonna produce that video on Tuesday. And listen to me. Those of y'all who follow me, you know this. When I tell you, you got to see this shit to believe it, trust me. What I'm gonna show you on Tuesday, you got to see it to believe it. You're not gonna believe it. I didn't believe it when I saw it, but I have the footage. And what I'm gonna do on Tuesday is I'm gonna produce that video, which is gonna basically tie into this one. I'm telling you, this Negro loves white people. Yes, they do. They do. They do. That's the reason why you find them not having a word to say when Shinebone and Skillet is acting up, creating mayhem and violence in these black communities. You won't hear these Negroes uttering one fucking word. But you let Shinebone or Skillet torture a white woman or a white man or a white boy or girl, here they come. Why? Why is it so bothering to you now? After all, he's killing Skillet, and you ain't said nothing about him killing Skillet, but you're gonna say something about him torturing this white dude. And again, keep in mind now, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. It should be called out. But the only ones who can legitimately call that bullshit out are the ones who call out when it's Negro on Negro. As long as these Negroes get that shit a pass and only call it out when it's black on white, we have to call that what it is. That's love of white people. Which I told y'all they do. They love y'all. And again, don't come to me giving me sources or sites of incidences where the Negro has brutalized white. We know that the Negro has done that. I mean, we know this because we know that the Negro, for the most part, is a savage. I've been telling y'all this, ain't nothing new. But for the most part, when you look at this Negro, he has love for his oppressor. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. I've been showing y'all in this video. That's why I chose the images that I chose. I didn't, listen, people, I didn't doctor these images up. These aren't doctored. These aren't some of my classic memes. If they were, I would tell you, yeah, I doctored this photo up. I went into my lab, I worked on it, and boom, this is the final. No, none of these images have been edited or doctored by me. None of them. And it's kind of fitting when you think about how the Negro says he hates white people so much, and most certainly hate cops. Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young brother has it bad because I'm brown. Come on, man, stop. Y'all don't hate them. Y'all hate me. Y'all love them. And we know this. When you take a look at the videos that have been produced centering around the Chicago torture by those savages, because that's what they are, what they did is inflict torture on that white boy. And as far as I'm concerned, they should be locked up and the key thrown away. But here's where I'm different from the other Negroes that you hear talking about this, is because if those same Negroes had done that to a black child, I would be saying the same thing. They need to be locked up and the key thrown away. Whereas the Negroes who love white folk will pretend like that shit didn't happen. That's the difference. You got to see this. It's right here in front of y'all. I told y'all in video after video after video that I've done, I could take it and sit in your lap. That's the best I can do. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to fuss with you. I'm not going back and forth with you. All I'm going to do is take this shit and sit it in your goddamn lap and force you to view this shit. I know it's painful. I know it's tough. But you got to see this shit for what it is. This Negro, as I've told y'all in many videos that I've done, he loves this white man. He loves him. Yes, he does. And the black woman worships him. Yes, he does. Yes, that's what happened. I've proven this to y'all. And here we have yet another classic example, one more again. Now, if you want that Serena Williams, because that actually ties into this shit too. Serena Williams and her new engagement, I'm gonna sit that video out tomorrow evening after the Steelers game. If you want to see that masterful video, you know what it is, send me an email. I'll get you the link.